Chapter 8. The next morning, Dad insists that I drive. I've had my learner's permit for nearly a year, and I'm supposed to take the exam in August to get my license. The learner's permit means I can drive as long as one of my parents is in the passenger seat. I used to drive all the time, but then I had a little mishap with an oncoming car, and I haven't driven since. Today, however, Dad says that I've got to get back up on the horse, whatever that means. And the only way we're going to go to Danville is if I drive. I slide behind the wheel, filled with unease. My heart is beating so hard and fast that I'm sure Dad can hear it, and my palms are sweaty on the steering wheel. I know my stops and starts are jerky as we head to Evelyn's house, but Dad doesn't say anything. When she sees that I'm driving, Evelyn quirks an eyebrow in surprise, but she doesn't say anything either as she climbs into the back seat. Finally begin to get over my nervousness as we drive down 38th Street. Traffic isn't bad this early on a Saturday, and the lights are timed, so I can cruise at a pretty constant speed. Spring has finally arrived, and we ride with the windows down, letting the wind whip through our hair. The fresh air feels great, and I breathe deeply, looking forward to the summer and all it has to offer. One of Dad's old-time favorites, Led Zeppelin, is streaming across the radio. He leans his head back on the seat, humming softly, with his eyes closed, and he seems to relax more the further we drive. I wonder if he's getting more comfortable with my driving, or if he's just relieved to be getting away from Mom. It's been a tense week at our house, and I, for one, am really happy to have an excuse to get away. She's not even trying to pretend that everything's okay anymore. And at times I feel like she's about to shatter into a million pieces. I am not okay with having a mother who ought to be covered in bubble wrap and labeled with a giant "Fragile, handle with care" sticker. I try not to think about her as we drive through Danville and then follow country roads towards Roger Billings' house. Dad lets the map on his phone guide the way, but repeats every direction the computerized voice gives. Finally, I turn carefully onto a gravel drive. The rocks crunch under the tires and hit the bottom of the car. I know Dad must be freaking out about the mess that is being made of his beloved sedan. When I look over at him, his jaw is set, but then he notices me watching him and gives me a smile. "Should have taken your mom's car," he jokes, and I laugh and agree with him. We pull up to a tidy, white farmhouse, which must be over a century old. Several large trees in the front yard are budded to life with the season, and spring flowers are bursting from the ground. As we climb from the car, the front door opens, and an old, friendly man in jeans, a plaid shirt, and suspenders step through. "Well, hello there," the man beams, coming out to meet us on the lawn. "Hello, Mr. Billings. My name is Mike Roberts. I'm Caitlin's dad." The two men shake hands vigorously before turning to me and Evelyn. "This is Kate," he puts his hand on my shoulder, "and her cousin Evelyn." He motions to Evelyn standing beside me. "How do you do, ladies? It's a pleasure to meet you." Mr. Billings offers his hand to me. I take it and feel the rough grip of a man who's known many years of hard work. After shaking Evelyn's hand, Mr. Billings climbs up the stairs and invites us to sit on the wide front porch. He excuses himself and disappears inside, returning a moment later with a pitcher of lemonade and glasses. We don't get many visitors here. My wife Judy used to just love it when someone stopped by. She insisted that we have these chairs out here, and she made lemonade and cookies any time we were expecting company. I guess I'm not much of one for baking cookies, though maybe you wouldn't guess it from the looks of me. He chuckles and pats his ample belly. But I can figure I can mix a powder and water as well as anyone and make up some lemonade. "It's very kind of you, Mr. Billings," Dad answers. "Please, call me Roger. We're not fancy people here." Pulls a chair around so that we're all facing each other conversationally. "Roger, then. Well, first, thank you for having us out here today. I understand from Kate that you found 3 of the missing beads, and that your granddaughter has them now?" "Yes, that's right. Her name's Hannah. She's 4 years old, and I'll admit I spoil the girl. Give her everything she wants when I get to see her. She's been sick her whole life, and with everything she's been through, I just never want to say no to her." Mr. Billings sits back in his chair thoughtfully. "But things do seem to be looking up," he smiles at me, "ever since I gave those beads to her." "Really?" I sit forward in my seat and speak for the first time. "What happened?" Well, you see, Hannah's been too sick to travel for a long, long time, so the only time I get to see her is when I go there to visit, which unfortunately is only a few times a year. I found those beads last summer, and the next time I went out was in November for Thanksgiving. I brought the beads with me and gave them to Hannah. Her mom got a ribbon and made a little necklace with those beads. Hannah's been undergoing another treatment. She was terribly sick. She couldn't keep anything down and had gotten real thin. It was awful to see her like that. Mr. Billings stares out towards the empty field and the side of the house, pain in his eyes as he remembers his granddaughter's pain. She started wearing those beads, though, and not long afterward, she picked up. I had arrived on Monday, and by Thanksgiving, on Thursday, she was able to sit at the table with the rest of us and eat dinner. You talk about something to be grateful for. Well, we had it. His eyes start to fill with tears. He blinks rapidly several times and takes a deep drink from his glass. Mr. Billings stares into his lemonade. The doctors couldn't explain the sudden turnaround. They said they'd never seen anything like it. My daughter, Melanie, thinks it had something to do with those beads. I nod my head, speechless. Dad says, Roger, I gotta tell you, I'm not a big believer in these things, but the girls seem to think your daughter's story could be right. Dad briefly tells them Emma's story, and Evelyn and I add a few details. Kate found the bead with her initials on it. We haven't seen any miracles yet, though, Dad shrugs, clearly skeptical. Then, Roger, we would never ask Hannah to give those beads back. I nearly choke on my lemonade in protest, but Dad continues. Whether or not they are behind her doing better, they're special to her. I do wonder, though, do you know, or could you find out, what initials are on the other two beads? Evelyn sits forward in her chair, a jumble of emotions crossing her face. I realize she desperately wants to find her own bead, but if it's one of the beads Hannah has, Dad's just destroyed her hope of actually being able to have it for herself. Well, Mike, Mr. Billings thinks for a moment. I really don't remember, but I can give a call to Melanie and have her check. Give me a minute. He stands and walks into the house. We sit in awkward silence as we wait. Suddenly we hear a whoop from the house and look at each other with our eyebrows raised. Mr. Billings returns a few minutes later, his face lit up with a huge smile and new energy in his step. It's gone! The cancer's gone! He shares excitedly. They did a scan yesterday, and the doctor just called with the results. He didn't want to wait till Monday. It's gone! He grabs me from my chair in a giant bear hug and swoops me around in a circle. Startled at first, by the time he sets me down, I share his excitement. I feel like my face might crack, my smile is so big. Those stupid tears that have come too often lately are back again. Only this time they're happy tears, and I let them fall down my cheeks unchecked. Evelyn's next for the big bear hug. Then Dad stands and offers his hand. Congratulations, Roger, he says, as Mr. Billings grabs his hand and pulls Dad in for a hug of his own. Now we're all laughing, the two men thumping each other on the back, as we all enjoy the moment of celebration. We've just met Mr. Billings, and we've never met little Hannah, but somehow this feels like a special victory for all of us. Finally, once we calm down, Mr. Billings fishes a piece of paper from his pocket. I did get those other initials for you. Unfolding the paper, he hands it to me. Evelyn beats me to it and snatches it from his hand. I see a strange mixture of relief and disappointment as she reads the letters and sags against her chair and hands the note to me. J-E-L. TML. It takes me a minute to realize that the first one is probably another one of the babies that Grandma miscarried. The second set of initials hits me like a ton of bricks, and I know instantly who they belong to. TML. Teresa Michelle Langford. Or at least that's who she was before she married my dad. My lips twist in a bitter grimace, and I blink black still more tears. If these beads are somehow connected to these miracles, could one of them bring my mother back to me? We stay a little bit longer, as Dad and Evelyn talk with Mr. Billings, but I don't have much to add to the conversation. As we prepare to leave, Dad offers me the keys, but doesn't argue when I shake my head and head for the passenger seat. We stop in the Mayberry Cafe to see Chelsea, but she's not there, so we pile right back into the car and hit the road towards home. I stare out the window as we drive, but I don't notice the beauty of the changing season. I play with the bead around my neck, lost in thoughts as the miles drag past, littered with stoplights and traffic. Dad stops along the road and gets each of us a milkshake, but my stomach is still growling when we pull up at Evelyn's house to drop her off. "You want to grab lunch somewhere?" Dad asks as we pull away from Evelyn's house. Not eager to return to Mom and whatever mood may hold her, I murmur a soft yes. Dad sighs heavily and drives to Binkley's. It's late for lunch, and the restaurant is mostly deserted. We get a table by the fireplace, one of my favorite spots in this restaurant that has been converted from an old pharmacy into a neighborhood gathering place. I order a soda and a cheeseburger, of course, while Dad opts for a pork tenderloin sandwich. As the waitress delivers our drinks, Dad leans on the table and looks at me closely. I look down at the napkin on the table in front of me, pleating it with my fingers. "You've been awfully quiet," he probes. I shake my head, not looking at him, and continue to play with the napkin. "Come on, Kate, what's wrong?" he asks. "Mom's bead," I finally manage in a strangled voice. Then I look him in the eye, angry. "She has Mom's bead." He sits back in his seat as the realization dawns. "Kate, we can't take those beads from that little girl." "But Dad, it's not even the one with her initials on it," I cry out angrily. "It's not her bead. None of them are, really. But she can keep the one with her initials on it. That person's dead, barely even lived. But we need Mom's." I pound my fist on the table, looking him full in the face now. "Mom's gone. She's gone, Dad. How else are we going to get her back?" "Kate, what are you talking about? Your mom isn't gone. She's at home. Probably she's doing laundry as we speak." "You know what I mean, Dad. Ever since Grandma died, she's not the same person. She just mopes around, doing laundry, or the cleaning, or reading some stupid book, as if that was more important to her than any of us. She's mean, and she doesn't pay any attention to us, especially not to me. She doesn't love any of us anymore, and she hates me." "Kate, your mother doesn't hate you. She loves you. She's having a hard time right now." He takes my hand from across the table and gives it a gentle squeeze before releasing it. "Sweetie, I don't know why losing your grandma has hit your mom so hard. I don't know why this whole rosary bead thing is upsetting her so much. But your mom's always been a strong person. She'll bounce back from this. She will." I shake my head, tears dripping from my eyes as I hang my head, trying to hide them from anyone who might be looking. Dad tries again. "Honey, there's a natural grieving process. Everyone experiences it a little bit differently. Some people go through it very quickly and are able to return to their lives. Your mom's just taking a little bit longer. We need to give her some time. We need to be patient. We just have to love her even when she's not showing us love in return." "But that's not fair, Dad. Why should I have to do that? She's my mother. She's supposed to love me. She's supposed to take me shopping and look at my schoolwork and try and figure out which guy I like. But she doesn't do any of those things anymore. She's not my mother. She's a zombie." Dad takes a few deep breaths, staring at the table in front of him. Finally, he looks at me and says, "You're right, Kate. It's not fair. But sometimes life isn't fair. Right now, this is the hand we've been dealt, and we have to play the cards we've got. We can't just give up, because the moment we give up, we lose." "Okay, fine. I won't give up." "I want the bead, Dad. I want it for Mom. I mean, what if it would help? What if that's the whole reason I found my bead?" My eyes plead with him. "Look, I don't want to take something away from a little girl who's sick. But Dad, don't you see? She's already better, and Mom isn't. Hannah's already got her miracle, but I still need one." The tears are flowing again, and I wipe them away, angry with myself for being such an emotional basket case. "Kate, it's true that a couple of pretty amazing coincidences have happened. But calling those things miracles, might be going a little far. Not everyone who's in a car accident dies, and medicine does cure people. I think you're placing way too much importance on a single little rosary bead. Maybe you're right, Dad, but it's all I've got. Getting that bead back is the only thing I can do to get Mom back. Please, Dad, I know you think this is all nonsense. I know you don't believe any of it. I'm not even sure that I do. But we've come this far, and I don't think it's just a coincidence that we found Mom's bead. Dad, I can't stop now. And if I have to buy my own plane ticket and fly to Florida and get that bead, I'll do it. I blurt the words out, not really thinking about what I'm saying. Dad looks at me long and hard without responding. The waitress arrives with our food and we dig in, both relieved to have an excuse not to talk for a few minutes. About halfway through his tenderloin, Dad stops and says, I'll tell you what, Kate. I think we could all use some time away. I'm not sure if your mother will go for it, but spring break is coming up. I'll talk it over with her. Maybe we can drive down to Florida. Have a nice vacation. Go and see Hannah and her family while we're... What? Dad, that's awesome! I squeal. And I jump up from my seat and rush over to hug him. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you! I say, my arms around his neck. Now, don't get your hopes up. I still need to discuss it with your mother, and I've got things I'll have to rearrange at the office. I'll promise that I'll try to make it work. But remember, Kate, even if we do go down there, we're not going just to ask for your mom's bead back. We'll see what Hannah's family thinks, and we'll take things from there. Properly chastised, I sat back down in my chair, but a smile continues to play at my lips. A vacation and a chance of getting Mom's bead back? I couldn't have asked for more. It's Sunday morning, and I've been up since 8, watching TV as I try to ignore the nagging desire to go to Mass. For the first 15 years of my life, I spent most Sunday mornings complaining about being forced to attend that very thing that for some unknown reason I now want. Of all the crazy things. Yes, if I was really set on the idea, I could ride my bike. Or even walk. Or ask Aunt Susan or Aunt Mary Ellen to come pick me up. But the couch is comfy, and so are my pajamas. And this show's pretty funny. Perhaps next week I'll manufacture a sleepover at Evelyn's house, and then Mass will be a foregone conclusion. Sometime later, my mind is slightly numb from sitcom reruns when I hear the phone ring. Gwen answers and brings it to Mom, who's reading a book in the sunroom. It's Aunt Mary Ellen, I hear Gwen tell Mom as she hands the phone over. I try and focus on the television show, but have a hard time tuning out Mom's conversation. Mary Ellen, we just didn't feel like going today. Pause. Mom closes the door to the sunroom, and I get up and pretend to head toward the kitchen so I can listen from there. Well, you know we can't all be perfect like you are, Mary Ellen. Her voice is muffled, but I can still hear it. I've been going to Mass since the day I was born. Okay, so I missed a few during college. But I just haven't felt like going lately, and I don't know if I'll feel like going next Sunday either. Or the Sunday after that, for that matter. Pause. I think about Aunt Mary Ellen, who's super devout, who goes to Mass every Sunday and most weekdays, and goes to adoration, and probably prays 18 rosaries a day, and she used to be super close to my mom. I can't even imagine how she must feel, having this conversation with her big sister. You know, what does it really matter? What Mom would want. Mom practically spits out the words, anger dripping from her voice. She's not here anymore. And besides, she went to Mass every Sunday. Nearly every day, for that matter. And where did it get her? She lost 4 babies and died in a terrible plane crash and left us all here to pick up the pieces. You can say whatever you want, but I've never seen God. I've never felt God. He's never been there for me, and he certainly isn't here for me right now. So do you know what, Mary Ellen? I'm done. I stand stock still at my listening post. A few weeks ago, hearing Mom say that she didn't want to go to Mass anymore would have filled me with glee. But now, surprisingly, I'm brimming with despair. I knew Mom was struggling with her faith, but has it really come to this? Here I am, bent on finding these beads and feeling more drawn to church, and Mom has decided to turn away from it completely. I'm not going to cry. I've done enough of that lately. Way too much. As I work to hold back the tears, Mom remains quiet, presumably listening to Mary Ellen. A few moments later, Mary Ellen must have said something to soothe things over, because I hear Mom say, "I love you too." I creep away from the door thinking about those words. I love you. Those are good words. Words I haven't heard her say in a while. Words I'd like to hear again. Suddenly, I want nothing more than to see Aunt Mary Ellen, so I can talk to her and ask her about what's been going on. Quietly, I pad through the house, looking for the other cordless phone. Finding it, I go into my room and close the door. I press the button for previous calls, finding Aunt Mary Ellen's number, and I push the call button. 14-year-old Thomas answers the phone. I hear him calling, "Mom, it's for you." Then a quizzical, "It's Kate," before Aunt Mary Ellen speaks into the phone. "Kate?" "Hi, Aunt Mary Ellen." Now what to say? Somehow I hadn't given it any thought. Just picked up the phone and pressed the button. "What's up?" "Well, I overheard Mom talking to you a little bit ago, and I just wanted to talk to you. I don't really know why." "That's okay, hon. You never need a reason to call me," she pauses. "We missed you at Mass today." "Yeah, I actually kind of wanted to go for once, but, well... How about I pick you up tonight and we can go to the evening Mass at St. Joan of Arc? Maybe we can grab a bite to eat afterwards." "Really? You do that? But you already went to Mass this morning." Aunt Mary Ellen chuckles. "There's nothing I'd rather do. Mass is always the highlight of my day. Going twice? Well, that's even better. I'll pick you up around 4:45, okay? That'll give us plenty of time to pray a rosary beforehand." "Okay, that sounds good. I'll see you then." And I hang up the phone and remove the necklace from around my neck, rolling the bead between my fingers for the 1000th time. Pray the rosary with Aunt Mary Ellen? I remember the last time I prayed the rosary with Evelyn, and Mr. Billings called almost immediately after we finished. Could prayer really be so powerful? If I pray the rosary today with Aunt Mary Ellen, will I get an immediate answer to my prayer again? Funny, I'd gone so long without praying much at all, let alone praying a whole rosary. And now I will pray 2 rosaries in 3 days. I feel a little bit silly, spending so much time on something I never cared about before, and thinking that I'll actually make a difference somehow. Yet I find myself looking forward to seeing Aunt Mary Ellen, to praying with her, and to spending some time with her after Mass.